What's up, Tanner J-Man Show Nation? This is Tanner Lee, one half of the Tanner J-Man Show, and on behalf of myself and my co-host Josh the J-Man Munt, we appreciate you listening to our podcast. If you're a new listener to our podcast, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts at. If that happens to be on Apple Podcasts, please give us a rating and review, as that helps us out a bunch. Watch our podcast live every Monday night from 6:30 to 7:30 Eastern Standard Time on the ISC Sports Network, and make sure to give us a like on Facebook and a follow on Twitter and Instagram at Tan and J-Man Show. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy some hot takes, topics, picks, and more on a brand new episode of the Tan and J-Man Show.
Welcome back to another episode of the Tan and J-Man Show. I'm here in studio in frigid, icy Lockport, Illinois, and Tanner's there, and I'm sure frigid and icy Rochester, Indiana.
Yeah, it's cold, but it's not as cold as it was late last week. Holy cow, late last week was just stupid.
Week was brutal. Here it's only 10 degrees, and I think the wind chill's below freezing. Did you guys get an ice storm?
It's 16 here. 16 here.
Oh, man. Shorts weather.
Yeah, it did get some ice Saturday night. I was up in Fort Wayne, but got some ice Saturday night, so didn't leave the house for quite a while.
That's smart. I don't like leaving the house even on sunny days, so ice gives me a perfectly good excuse to stay inside.
Oh, man.
Got some birdie bogey for me tonight?
I do. Let me bring up the banner so you can get that for all the viewers. But NFL playoffs, NFL playoff time. I want to know which NFL stadium, past or present, has held the most NFL playoff games.
Most NFL playoff games, man, that's a real good question. I mean, we have some pretty new stadiums. Steelers have been in the playoffs forever, it feels like, but Heinz Field's only been around for maybe 18 years or so.
Right.
It's a good question there, T-Dog. I have an answer, but it's probably going to be wrong.
I hope it is. I'm hoping.
Both of us are usually wrong, so
I'm hoping. I don't want to get into a two-stroke hole. So
there's a lot of season left.
Oh, you better believe it. But last year got out of hand pretty quick down the stretch. So
Birdie Bogey is brought to you by Noble Gnome LLC for fresh, locally grown, nutrient-dense produce from Bryce and Katie Romine of Mentone, Indiana. Like them on Facebook, follow them on Instagram, and check out their website, noblegnomellc.com. Get your veggies.
Yes, sir. It'll be veggie season once the weather gets a little warmer.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Starting off with the NFL tonight, what do you want to talk? You want to talk playoffs? You want to talk Week 18, or do you just want to go straight into Black Monday?
We're not starting with the NFL. We even just
that's right. We talked about this literally 30 seconds ago. Oh man, it's a Monday.
We're talking Big Ten hoops since we're usually
Big Ten hoops. That's what I meant.
That was classic.
Literally 3 minutes ago, 1 minute before the show started, like, oh yeah, we're starting off with college basketball, and I screwed it up.
Hey, it's not the Tanner J-Man Show unless one of us screwed something up.
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
If the Tanner J-Man Show's expecting perfection, this isn't a podcast for you. So
I think that's what gives us our charm.
It is. We're authentic. We're not trying to be people we're not. So
we're idiots.
Pretty much. But yeah, Big Ten hoops, man. You got to be feeling pretty good right now. But this conference it's weird right now. Just very odd.
You know, last Monday when we were doing our first bold predictions of 2022, I said the Big Ten would only have 4 NCAA tournament teams, and then Wisconsin turns around and wins at Purdue with Johnny Davis going off for 37 points.
Yeah, 37 points, man. One of the
best
performances by an opposing player I've ever seen in Mackey. Jeez.
Yeah, I've been dogging Wisconsin really since the end of last year, but I think they're pretty dang for real.
Yeah.
And that helps the Big Ten get its depth too, because we thought maybe they'd be like the 9th or 10th best team. They're sitting here looking like they might be the 3rd or 4th best team right now. So I don't think the Big Ten's as deep as it was last year, but teams are starting to separate themselves. And I think it's going to be pretty dang good. I mean, Indiana had a huge win against Ohio State. They're one of those teams that I would say is right there on the cusp of being an NCAA tournament team. So I think we could get maybe 7 or 8 teams in at this point.
I think one of the bracketologists, I don't remember which one, even as of last week, had 10.
Does that include like Northwestern?
It might have at the time, but that's not going to happen.
I know Joe Lenardi had them as one of his last teams in, but they've lost a couple in a row, including a home game to Penn State.
Right.
So that I would assume drop them out. But I'm assuming it's including Minnesota as well, which I think we're going to see them kind of tail off here. They already started to.
And Penn State's not a tourney team, but, man, they're not fun to play against.
I'm telling you, Micah Shrewsbury, and you would know better than I even with him being a Purdue assistant for a while. He's going to make them into a program that's not a loser anymore. It's kind of reminds me a little of Greg Peichel with Rutgers. Rutgers was a laughing stock. Mm-hmm. He's added instant credibility, and they've made an NCAA tournament. I expect Shrewsbury to do the exact same thing.
Well, he's already getting to play hard. He's already recruiting better than Chambers. Well, Chambers recruited pretty good there for a short stint. Did he go about it cleanly? I don't know. But, I mean, and I hate playing at the Bryce Jordan Center because it's only like a 10th full. Yeah. But Purdue, did they play well? They didn't play their greatest by any means. I thought their defensive effort was better than it was against Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. But they escaped with a win, and that's all I care about. I don't care what it looks like, especially on the road. Just get wins. I mean, I'm just getting annoyed with these guys single-handedly going off. Ron Harper against Rutgers, Johnny Davis, and then Pickett against Penn State. And it wasn't like they were hitting wide open, easy shots. They were contested most of the time and going in, and just is what it is. But Purdue got a much-needed win because if they lost that game, I would have been in panic mode already.
Yeah, they would have been 3 games out already behind Michigan State and Illinois. It almost feels like a must-win game.
Sure.
At that point, but I mean, they're still in it. And as you said, regardless of how you do it on the road in the Big Ten, you could be playing the worst team in the history of Big Ten basketball. You get a 1-point road win, you're feeling pretty good.
Indiana and Crean's first year.
Yeah, exactly. Any Northwestern team that I can picture. I hate Northwestern.
I know you do.
Like tomorrow, Illinois plays at Nebraska. I expect it to be a dogfight. You remember last year, I watched that game with you, Illinois at Nebraska. It took Ayo Dosunmu going off in the final 2 minutes to tie it. They were down 7 with 3 minutes left.
I will say,
was a trash Nebraska team.
They looked like trash against Rutgers, but Rutgers is starting to come on too. So
yeah, and I mean, I think we expected Rutgers to start playing a little better. Mm-hmm. They've put themselves in quite a hole so far, and it'll be interesting to see if they can dig themselves out of it. But I mean, that arena there in Piscataway, what's it called?
What
is that called? The Rack.
It was the Rack. Now it's Jersey Mike's arena.
Oh man, that takes the fun away.
I know it does. I'm still calling it the Rack.
That's a place no one wants to play there.
No, it's a difficult venue. I don't like playing at any venues in the Big Ten. So
that's fair.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting this week. Purdue is supposed to go up to Ann Arbor tomorrow night, but Michigan's got hit by COVID. Mm-hmm. It postponed their game against Michigan State. Now postponed their game against Purdue.
I'm sure Michigan has COVID issues, but it's very curious. They play arguably the 3 best teams in the Big Ten here this week, and all of a sudden they're on COVID pause. Yep. Same thing kind of happened last year, which kind of screwed Illinois out of Big Ten regular season.
They won't be able to get out of these. They will get rescheduled.
They will have to reschedule.
But for Michigan State and Purdue's sake, they better not throw it into like a 3-game week where the other two have like really tough matchups, because that's just not fair.
Last year, Illinois had a 4-game week.
I know.
You remember that? It was towards the end of February. It sucked.
Yeah, I know.
I think Illinois won every single one of them.
It just sucks that the Big Ten still has to go through this, and college basketball still has to go through this.
I hate Tom Izzo. You hate Tom Izzo, but Izzo had a real good point today where he said there's not a whole lot of clarity from the administration standpoint. We need more clarity on this stuff. Zero communication. And imagine that. Kevin Warren's been an absolute disaster, and it continues.
Yeah, you have to have 7 scholarship players, so not including walk-ons, to be able to go. And Michigan tested again yesterday, and they weren't able to have 7 guys ready to go. So,
and with the CDC now having the 5-day quarantine sort of thing, I think it will help them maybe play Illinois on Friday.
Yeah.
Which that's a game I know both teams have circled at the beginning of the year, and I hope they get to play it.
All the Michigan games, I think, were circled, but they've all lost their hype just because of Michigan's 6-loss start.
Which that kind of scares me about playing them
Sure.
right now anyway, because they're due.
Sure.
They're super talented. It's only a matter of time.
They're due, but they're down. They're due, but they're down. So
that's fair.
You can look at it both ways.
When they came into the season ranked number 4, I thought it was preposterous.
Yeah.
But I didn't see them being 7 and 6 at this point.
But yeah, now Purdue gets 4 days in a row practice. They host they host Nebraska Friday night. That's their lone game. But next week they got a 3-game gauntlet at Illinois, at Indiana, and Northwestern at home.
Yeah, I mean 3 game weeks happen, I guess, but
yeah, it does.
They're never fun weeks. No. I mean, you have game, boom, boom, boom. You can never really relax. I will say I think Purdue has helped significantly by that game being at 11 a.m. Central Time on Monday, which I'm not happy about that because I won't be able to watch a single second of it. Who knows what kind of crowd's going to be there? I know students I don't think will be back yet.
If students are back, they have that day off. I bet.
Yeah,
but I bet they're back.
It seems like it takes until the end of January to get Illinois students back for whatever reason. I don't know why that is. It's real annoying come college basketball season though.
Gosh, I hope they're not back.
Yeah.
Because I do that affects games.
Big time,
especially conference games.
I'd never heard a Big Ten game more quiet than I heard Maryland Illinois to start the other night, and it got louder as the game progressed and got later in the game, and Illinois started going on a run. But the home team took on the energy of the crowd, and the energy was awful. It was terrible.
Same thing happened to Mackey Monday against Wisconsin. I mean, it finally started to get loud when Purdue ended up getting 7-point lead, even though they didn't sustain it. But for a while, it was just dead. It's like, come on. Like, the guys want to feed off your energy. Bring the energy.
Yep.
This wasn't there. But, yeah, right now, Illinois is ranked 25th now. You got to be feeling pretty good. I mean, them and Michigan State are kind of – I don't want to say they're separating themselves, but right now they're looking really good.
Illinois won 10 of their last 11 Big Ten road games, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah, that doesn't happen anymore.
It's one of those things. They've completely turned it around since the Cincinnati loss. They looked awful against Cincinnati. Andre Curbelo gets hurt against Kansas State. You're thinking, I don't know where the offense is going to come from. And Alfonso Plum or something clicked with him, and it's completely opened up the offense. They've started shooting the ball real well. I couldn't care less if they're ranked, to be honest. I'd prefer they stay unranked. They're number 10 in the net ranking, which that's what the NCAA uses to a seed team. So they'd be like a 3 seed right now. So I'd prefer this fly under the radar a little bit still. And I mean, Kofi Coburn, even with Johnny Davis' huge week against Purdue and Iowa, didn't play as good last night against Maryland. Kofi Coburn still won Big Ten Player of the Week. He's been absolutely dominant, and it still seems like he hasn't got a whole lot of buzz from the national writers for whatever reason. It might just be been there 3 years. He's been too consistent that he's just kind of boring at this point.
I was reading it was some message board, and it's just a rumor. Some guy was talking to some Illinois booster, and the Illinois boosters aren't as worried about him leaving pro after this year. They're more worried about him going to a different school.
I haven't heard.
I don't understand that though.
Rumors.
Unless he just doesn't think he can be a pro player and wants to make NIL money.
Which he'd be smart to just stay at the same school where he has his brand. And I mean, Illinois fan base is insane when it comes to that kind of stuff. I bet he's already making maybe 7 figures. I bet he's a millionaire by this point.
Just like Bryce Young.
Yeah. Like it wouldn't surprise me at all. I wish they'd kind of come out with those numbers. I understand why they don't. But it'd be interesting to see what kind of Big Ten players are up there in basketball. I honestly, the NIL, it might help Illinois bring Kofi back next year. Who knows?
I think it helped him this year.
It definitely helped him get him back. And really, this year it's all gravy anyway because he wasn't expected to come back. So I'm just kind of enjoying it. Kind of like Io last year, he wasn't supposed to come back. Ended up doing it. So if he leaves, go somewhere else, had 3 great years. It'd be huge if he came back though, but don't want to get too far ahead of myself.
No, I just thought it was interesting. I was like,
Yeah.
Oh, I just figured if he didn't go pro, he'd be back at Illinois. I didn't. I mean, he had a chance to transfer this year and decided not to. So,
And I'm glad he didn't, because he's clearly the MVP of the Big Ten. He was plus 28 against Maryland when he was on the floor, and they were minus 16 with him off the floor in the 10 minutes he didn't play.
has anybody been able to get him into foul trouble yet?
Well, Maryland kind of did. They got 2 cheap fouls on him within the first 10 minutes, and he sat out. They did the auto bench, which I don't like. He's really good about not fouling, though, which is kind of amazing for how big he is. But he's pretty nimble, and he doesn't use his hands. He's such a good defender now. He's night and day from his freshman year, where it felt like he was in foul trouble all game long. I don't remember a single game where he got even 4 fouls on him. I don't remember a single game. Now, their backup big Omar Payne is averaging over 9 fouls per 40 minutes. So he's kind of taking all those fouls for him. Yeah. But yeah, no team's gotten him in foul trouble. The teams need to, though.
That'll be interesting against Purdue next Monday.
Yeah.
Him and Edie could just probably kill each other.
And honestly, they probably won't even call that much, because both guys are so big. They'll just beat each other all over the place. And
Zach's got the same problem Isaac Haas did with his elbows. You got to keep the ball up. You bring it down, then you become the height of the guy's head.
He's so tall that he just turns around and he bumps into a guy, and it's an offensive foul. Or that will be a fascinating matchup. But Purdue has the edge in the fact that Kofi's going to have to sit at some point, and you're having Omar Payne going against either Travion Williams, and Zach Edey, which is a scary proposition. I don't know who's going to guard Jaden Ivey. They don't have a guy like that can. I mean, Trent Frazier is one of the best on-ball defenders in the Big Ten, but he's given up 4 inches and probably 20 pounds, and Ivey's significantly more athletic. So that's where the mismatch is going to be. There's not going to be much of a mismatch down low. I think Illinois would probably have the advantage.
They put Williams on him?
I don't know if DeMonte has the quickness to do it. I mean, they put DeMonte on Dante Scott, who's 4 inches taller, and he shut him down in the second half.
Yeah.
They put DeMonte on EJ Liddell in the Big Ten championship game, shut him down in the second half. So they might have to do something like that, but I think you're just going to have to let him go off and try to stop the other guys, to be honest.
Yeah, the guys who won the game the other day for Purdue were Travion Williams off the bench having 21 and Mason Gillis career high 14. Yep. He's been really efficient for Purdue and kind of earned his starting spot back because Caleb first got COVID, and then even before that, he was starting to kind of not do too much. So Gillis has kind of got a spot back, but it's been interesting. Brandon Newman did not play the other day just by coach's decision.
Really?
So it's interesting because you can see he has no confidence right now, and I don't know. Painter's trying to find a mix. So I mean, he plays Ethan Morton quite a bit. So.
Which Ethan Morton had a good game against. Who do you have a really good game against? You tweeted he's a really good basketball player.
I was against Wisconsin. He was having a good game. I mean, he doesn't score a lot, but he does all the little things. And
he have a little bit of a Dakota Mathias to him.
Yeah, of course he doesn't shoot, and he's not quite the on-ball defender, but just a smart guy you trust that when the ball's in his hands. So, yeah.
It seemed like Ivey disappeared a little bit against Wisconsin.
Oh, definitely did. They took him out of the game.
He fell asleep one time and gave up a wide open 3 to Brad Davison, and he kind of took some wild shots late. He's still young.
Yeah. Sometimes he tries to do too much. And on the defensive end, Matt was really on him on his radio show after that game on Monday. And I thought he played a lot better defense on Saturday. He still goes too over aggressive sometimes and then leaves guys wide open or helps too much off ball. But that's one thing Purdue's got to learn, how to be at least a decent defensive team, because they do give up a lot of wide open looks from 3, and that's what scares me against a team like Illinois next week. Not overlooking Nebraska, but
you can overlook Nebraska. Purdue scores enough. If they can just find some sort of defensive rhythm, they could go on a run here.
But it'll be interesting. There's a lot of decent games slated this week around the conference.
Starting Tuesday night, we have Rutgers at Penn State.
I'm going to go Rutgers, but this is going to be a close one, I think.
You can get in the door for as low as $3.
Your hot dog will literally cost more.
And if Rutgers wins this, they're 4-1 in Big Ten play.
I know.
Give me Rutgers. Yeah, give me Rutgers. Illinois at Nebraska. Illinois is 13.5-point favorites.
I think Illinois wins by 20.
I think they cover. I'm scared though because again,
you were scared to even say that.
Pinnacle Bank Arena gets pretty loud. They did not play there well last year whatsoever. Illinois is too good to lose to Nebraska, but who knows? I mean, stuff can happen.
Don't say that, Josh.
Minnesota at Michigan State.
Yeah, Michigan State. I think takes care of this one.
Michigan State. Maryland coming off a tough loss last night to Wisconsin at home, traveling to Northwestern.
Maryland's 8-6. They just can't win.
8-7 now.
8-7 now.
And 0-4 in the Big Ten.
I'm going to take Northwestern at Welsh Ryan.
Maryland's got to be the most. Michigan's pretty dang disappointing.
Maryland's lost their head coach.
I would say is right up there with them.
I mean, they were put in a tough bind when their head coach.
Yeah, but they came into the year ranked and they started losing right away, and then Turgeon.
That's
quit.
a good point.
Michigan's more disappointed, but Maryland's up there with them. I think Maryland gets it done. I can't pick Northwestern.
I know you can't.
Ohio State at Wisconsin.
Wow. Yeah, not a must win for Ohio State, but one they need.
Ohio State's 4-1 in Big Ten play, so they're right there with Wisconsin.
Yeah, they just lost to Indiana. Didn't look very good doing so. Sewing and Towns, there's still no timetable for their return. Sewing's only played 2 games. Towns hasn't played any yet. I'm going to take Wisconsin at home.
Man. Ohio State blew out Wisconsin back in December.
That's right. I forgot they already played once. Wow, they're already going to close each other out.
Man. I think E.J. Liddell's too much of a bad matchup for Wisconsin. But at the same time, Johnny Davis is a bad match. It's a coin flip game. Give me Ohio State on the road. Yeah. I don't know why. I don't like picking Wisconsin either. Indiana at Iowa. This is an interesting one.
This will be an interesting one. Indiana's playing a lot better, but Murray can go off for Iowa. I think Iowa usually gives Indiana problems up at Carver Hawkeye, if I'm not mistaken. But something tells me Indiana's going to go get another good win for themselves.
I agree. I think Indiana goes on the road. Iowa doesn't have a whole lot of anything outside of Keegan Murray.
No.
They need more from Bohannon's elderly butt. They need more from both McCaffreys and from that Philip Rabraka, whatever his name is. Give me Indiana, though. I like the way they're playing right now. I mean, I don't like it, but
they're playing good defense. I still think they need a little more on their offense, but it's obviously working right now. So.
Yep. Michigan at Illinois if the game's played.
Illinois will beat them at home.
I hope so. I'm taking Illinois, but
that would scare me that Michigan gets so much prep time. Yeah, even though, but a lot of their guys probably can't practice right now. So
I mean, though Illinois had the COVID issues and they didn't play for 13 days and only got 2 days of practice time. Yeah. They went into Minnesota and just blew the doors off of them. So could bring a team together.
You never know.
Yeah, give me Illinois. Nebraska at Purdue.
Yeah, I think Purdue wins this one. Being their only game this week, they should be rested up and well prepared.
Purdue by 42.
I hope so. That'd be nice. I'd love to see the walk-ons get some time. Payne Cruz back. Mackey should be nice. On fire.
Northwestern at Michigan State.
Michigan State.
Give me Michigan State. Rutgers at Maryland.
I'll finally give Maryland a win.
I think Maryland wins 2 games this week.
That'll be a big week for them. That's so.
Penn State at Ohio State.
OSU bounces back from our
Ohio State as well. Iowa at Minnesota.
I don't know why. I just think Minnesota's going to tank, kind of start falling apart. I'm going to take Iowa.
Give me Iowa. Yeah. Then on Monday at 11 a.m., we have Purdue at Illinois. Game of the year.
I was hoping we wouldn't even pick this game, to be honest.
I know. The outcome of this game determines whether I do the show next week. So
fair enough. I'm taking Illinois. I don't feel good about this game at all.
And I'm taking Purdue because I don't feel good about it either. So
I don't feel good about next week. I'm not looking forward to it already. Have to play against Illinois with you. Got to play against Indiana Thursday back to back. It's just my nightmare.
Then Indiana and Nebraska play at 5 on Monday. We'll cover that next week.
That is one thing. Indiana hasn't played the greatest opponents in the last about month.
No.
Really.
Yeah.
But
they really
got to play who's on your schedule.
Got to play. Yeah. I mean, you got to beat who's on your schedule. So, and getting a win against Ohio State kind of.
Oh yeah, they were ranked
boost them
13th.
a little bit.
Thanks for correcting me there. I forgot about that one already.
So, any more college basketball talks?
That's just crazy around the nation right now. We saw Duke get upset by Miami, Florida at home. Miami, Florida might be the second best team in the ACC.
And Miami's not even ranked after that win. They're 13-3, undefeated in the ACC.
I don't know what it's going to take to get them ranked. But Notre Dame, now they're 8-5. They got a overtime win at Georgia Tech over the weekend. Butler,
they might be the third best team.
Bad week for Butler, 2 losses last week.
Butler stinks.
Yeah, I was just thinking of Indiana schools because really, outside of that, I haven't watched a lot of basketball outside the Big Ten.
I haven't either. No, I've watched only Big Ten. Sticking with college hoops though, for word association, I went through Purdue's recruiting signees in college basketball from 2002 through 2017, and I picked one guy from each class. There was one class where I'd never heard of either of them.
What class was that?
I think it was 2003 or 2004.
Okay.
There was one where it was 2 no-star guys that I'd never heard of, so I just skipped over that one. But starting with David Teague.
One of the best shooters in Purdue history. Heart and the soul of that 06-07 team, him and Carl Landry, that they were lucky to have them both back, that got Matt Payer to his first NCAA tournament. He went nuts against Illinois one time at Mackey for like 30.
Of course he did.
You were at that game.
I was at that game. Yeah. I remember it vividly.
That was that same year I'm talking about. But, yeah, he was a fun one. It seemed like he was at Purdue forever, which he was at for 5 years because he was hurt all season for 1 year. But, fan favorite. Fun.
Bryant Dillon.
Ooh, that's a good one. Played on some bad teams. Was a junior college guy. Played on, I think, a 7-win team and a 9-win team. But I think he was the leading scorer on that 9-win team of Painter's first year. But skinny guy, wore number 5 guard. Is what he was. I mean, just didn't play on good teams.
Nate Manoy.
He was pretty talented for a big boy.
He's big, yeah.
Kind of got in some trouble. Was another guy part of Painter's first year, and then wasn't asked to come back. Ended up transferring to Central Michigan, and don't think he ever played much there. I don't even know if he played a full year, but he was good friends with my cousin's husband. So I've learned a little bit about Nate Manoy over the years.
Keaton Grant.
Underrated Boilermaker. I mean, he was the MVP his sophomore year of the team. He went from not being able to hit threes to being a really good 3-point shooter by the time he left Purdue. And, he was forgotten about because you look at Etuan Juwan, Hummel, and even Chris Kramer a lot, and you forget about Keaton Grant. He was a good ball player. He
was kind of the glue guy there.
Sure was.
One of my favorites here, Nimja Chalasan.
Oh, good old Nelly. He was all right, but I had higher expectations. He was a second-rated JUCO player, and he chose Purdue over Kentucky just because he knew a gal who was a Purdue student at the time. The number 1 junior college rated player was Jamarcus Ellis. Remember him at Indiana?
Oh, yeah, Indiana.
So, I mean, Nimja could shoot, but once Juwan Johnson kind of came on, he set the bench.
Didn't he go toe-to-toe with Blake Griffin?
He did. He had a heck of a game in that preseason NIT game at Madison Square Garden when Oklahoma shot 40-plus free throws that produced 5, and Oklahoma beat him in overtime, and I broke my phone.
Reminds me of a certain national championship game in 2005.
I bet you didn't break your phone because you didn't have one.
Didn't have one then. Lewis Jackson.
Oh, good old Lou Jack. One of the most exciting players to watch at Purdue just because how quick he was. I remember his recruiting tape. I was so excited because he could jump out of the gym. Then he only ended up having 1 dunk at Purdue, but it was still cool to see that 1 dunk. But, part of me kind of wishes he would have redshirted the year that Hummel ended up tearing his ACL because he was hurt until about midway through the Big Ten season that year and came back to play, which I understand why he did because they thought they could have done something special. Yeah. But, he kind of became a scorer his senior year when they relied on him and Robbie Hummel a bunch. I think he put up 27 or 29 against Iona in a preseason conference tournament.
He had that little mid-range jumper.
Yeah.
Remember.
Unfortunately, his worst 2-minute stretch of his career was the last 2-minute stretch of his career against Kansas. He had 2 timely turnovers that ended up kind of costing him the game.
Kelsey Barlow.
Oh, boy. Very talented, but just out there, just weird troublemaker, ended up getting kicked off the team for an incident at Warehouse Bar. But he came back to play on the Purdue TBT team this summer, and all of a sudden Barlow's hitting threes and he's become a shooter. It's like, where did he develop this overseas? I think he's having a decent overseas career, but he was a weird one. I'd see him on campus, like on his bike, and he'd be talking to himself. He was kind of out there. Very talented though, but just very, very odd.
Tacos Carroll.
One of my least favorite Purdue players of all time. He was the Gatorade Player of the Year in Indiana, put up good stats against Cody Zeller in high school, and then he was just Mr. Fundamental. When you're 6'10" at Purdue and he didn't have a single dunk in game, that says something.
Donnie Hale.
Oh boy, man!
I remember didn't we bump into him at the mall?
Yeah,
with his girlfriend or something.
He and that whole recruiting class was just Matt Painter whiffs. Matt went for the talent instead of the fit, and almost got him fired.
Was he there with like what year was that? Was that 11?
Ronnie Johnson, Jacob Lawson? No, he was the back-to-back, like last place in the Big Ten years.
Ronnie was actually the next year because he's on my list here. Ronnie Johnson.
Too much sauce.
Good old
Ronnie Johnson. Then he ended up going to Houston and then Auburn. And Purdue beat him at Auburn. It came full circle, and they played each other in a preseason tournament.
Kendall Stevens.
One of the best Purdue three-point shooters of all time. I mean, he wasn't at Purdue a ton, but I think Sasha Stefanovic just passed him for all-time pointers made at Purdue. And he got lost in the shuffle and then ended up going to Nevada and finished his career pretty strong. But I don't think there was any hard feelings there. His dad's a Purdue legend, Everett Stevens.
Isaac Haas.
Pretty talented big man. I mean, was never an NBA fit, but I thought he got better every year he was at Purdue, and it was a tough mismatch and really started Purdue's let's go get not only 7-footers, but over 7-footers.
Yeah.
And now Painter just keeps grabbing them every year or two. So, but it's hard to think of Isaac Haas, not think of his broken elbow against Cal State Fullerton.
Yep. Ryan Klein.
Oh, I got to think of the Tennessee game right away in the Sweet 16 when he just went nutso. Another great three-point shooter at Purdue. One Matt Painter wishes he would have redshirted his freshman year, but thankfully he didn't because he single-handedly won them the game at Pittsburgh in the ACC Big Ten Challenge that year. But it'll forever be the three-point pointers he had against Tennessee.
Carson Edwards.
One of Purdue's all-time greats. I mean, it's too bad to see his NBA career never really shook out. I mean, he's in the G League right now, but his tournament performance the same year Klein went off against Tennessee, his just tournament performance against Old Dominion, Villanova, Tennessee, and then Virginia was just legendary.
And then Matt Harms.
Oh, good old Matt Harms, Indiana killer. That's what I love him for. Indiana fans hate him. He always played really well against Indiana. Left for BYU last year and had the exact same season he always had at Purdue. So if he stayed at Purdue last year, Zach Edey probably was going to redshirt.
Yeah.
So it kind of all worked out.
That's going to do it.
And that is the word association segment, which is brought to you by Rhett Lee, attorney at law. Rhett Lee and the law office of Andrew Key LLC are located at 206 4th Street in Logansport, Indiana. Rhett provides legal services to the people of North Central Indiana and practices criminal defense, family law, and personal injury. If you need a lawyer who cares about your results and will fight for you, call Rhett today to schedule a free consultation at 574-722-2221. And I guarantee he'll be glued to the TV to watch his Georgia Bulldogs tonight in the national title game against the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Who you got?
I got Bama. 31-20.
This will be the J-Man's Book It prediction of the week. Give me Bama. I think they win it again. I don't have any sort of interest in watching this game. I don't think I will watch this game. It's Alabama fatigue, but I think Alabama wins. Entering tonight, Alabama has been an underdog only twice in its last 95 games. And I bet the moment they became underdogs, Georgia's like crap.
And Alabama's pinning that up on their bulletin board.
Absolutely. J-Man's Book It prediction of the week is brought to you by Indiana Farm Bureau Insurance Agent Travis Wottring for life, home, auto, renters, business, workers' comp, and farm insurance. Contact Travis at 219-869-4561. His email is travis.wottring@infb.com.
And next week on the podcast and tomorrow on social media, I'll have the winner announced of the Tan and J-Man Show Bowl pick'em contest.
sir.
Going into the night, our good buddy Connor Thompson is 2 or 3 points ahead of another good buddy of ours, Andrew Eiler. So with a few others, because I don't know, I'm guessing a lot of people have Alabama pretty big. So we'll see how it shakes out tonight. I can't see anybody's picks till the game starts.
Do you want to go into the NFL or do you want to do our bold predictions real quick?
Let me knock out the on this day, and then we'll do bold predictions
Perfect.
real fast, and then we'll get into the NFL. I haven't even looked at the on this day segment, so this could be interesting. On this day in 1945, no one was elected to baseball's Hall of Fame.
What year?
1945. I don't know why. Don't know who was up for it then, but nobody was chosen.
World War II, maybe?
Could have been. Probably was. On this day in 1967, the 17th NBA All-Star Game was played at the Cow Palace in San Francisco, California. The West beat the East 135-120. Who was the MVP of that All-Star Game?
67?
Yep.
I'm gonna go with Bill Russell.
Good guess. It was Rick Barry. Cow Palace, Warrior. Yeah. On this day, 1982, the AFC Championship was played in Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati as the Cincinnati Bengals beat the San Diego Chargers 27-7 in the game that is known as the Freezer Bowl.
Freezer Bowl.
Yeah, I forget what the temperature was. It was something just outrageous. On this day, 1986, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar of the LA Lakers scored his 34,000th career point during a 124-102 win over the Indiana Pacers. It's the only NBA player to reach the milestone at the time. Remains the all-time leader with 38,387 points.
He's pretty good.
Yeah. On this day in 1989, the great one, Wayne Gretzky, at the time the LA Kings center, became the NHL's all-time leading scorer in combined regular season and playoff points. He had 4 assists and a 5-4 home win over the Edmonton Oilers, bringing his total to 2,011, one more than Gordie Howe. On this day in 1996, Jimmy Johnson was announced as the new head coach of the Miami Dolphins.
Nothing like taking away Dan Marino's voice, essentially. Jimmy Johnson just didn't let Dan Marino do Dan Marino things.
Not very smart of him.
Pathetic. He's an idiot.
Not very smart. On this day, 1998, Utah Jazz head coach Jerry Sloan won his 600th NBA game in a 111-84 victory at the Houston Rockets.
He's from South Bend, wasn't he?
He went to Evansville, I know, to play ball, so I know that much. He's a Purple Ace. On this day in 2003, the NBA announced that Charlotte, North Carolina is awarded an NBA expansion franchise to be known as the Charlotte Bobcats, and they would start playing 04-05. Eventually, they changed their name to the Charlotte Hornets in the 14-15 season. I couldn't have guessed it was that long ago.
I don't know why I was thinking Jerry Sloan was from South Bend. He's from Illinois.
Oh.
I don't know.
Who won the college football 13th annual BCS National Championship on this day in 2011?
2011. That was 2011. That was Alabama over Texas, wasn't it?
No, that was Auburn over Oregon, 22-19.
Shoot.
And that's going to do it for the On This Day segment. If you, yourself, your business, or organization would like to become a sponsor of the On This Day segment, let Josh or I know. You can email us, text us, get a hold of us on social media, and we'll talk about some packages for you.
Yes, sir. Hitting up our bold predictions real quick. I have them here on my phone. What's your first one?
Yes, one of my bold predictions for 2022 is a golfer on the PGA Tour will complete the career Grand Slam. So I'm talking, if Rory McIlroy wins the Masters, he completes it. If Jordan Spieth wins the PGA Championship, he completes it. If Phil Mickelson wins the U.S. Open, he completes it. Or some guys could go off for like 2 majors, like Koepka. Maybe he wins the Masters and the Open Championship. I don't know.
Rory winning the Masters is one of mine. So
I had a feeling it was coming this week or next week. So I wanted to change mine up a little bit.
Yeah. I said Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds and David Ortiz all make the Hall of Fame. All 3 steroid accused.
You're sticking to that Clemens and Bonds one from last year.
It feels like it's trending that way, and I think the media likes Big Papi too much not to have him in.
You had a Big Ten related one last week. I got one this week. The Big Ten will have one team make the Final Four.
I like that. I like that. This is a personal one for me. Zach Thomas finally makes the NFL Hall of Fame. He's been a semifinalist each of the last 3 years. I think he finally gets in.
Finally, his time.
He deserves to get in.
I have a couple NFL related ones. Carson Wentz will be the Colts starting quarterback come week 1.
Nice. There's an NFL one for you. Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield, and Deshaun Watson are all traded.
That's a bold one. I like that one, though. I got one with Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson will not play in 2022.
That would not surprise me. Golden State Warriors will win the NBA title.
I almost had that, but I went the NBA direction, and this is maybe just kind of what I want to happen. The Pacers will finally have a top 5 pick in the NBA draft.
They're looking that way, aren't they?
And just be bad enough to get yourself good chances to get up there. Gosh, they're boring. Yeah. At least Lance Stevenson's brought some entertainment.
This might be the first time they're bad enough to actually be like a top lottery pick. They're 13th in the East. They have
terrible,
like 6th worst record in the NBA. So it's possible.
Hopefully Donnie Walsh decides to trade. Not Donnie Walsh. Wow, Miles. It used to be Donnie Walsh. Simon,
a long time ago.
Simon, the owner. Hopefully he decides to, in the general manager. Hopefully decides to trade some guys away to even make them even worse.
Alabama will not play in the national championship game next year.
So you give one of those that we're going to have to, well, no, we might know that.
I think we'll know on New Year's Eve usually.
Yeah, we'll know if they're,
Yeah.
2022 will be Bill Belichick's last year.
I hope so.
That's maybe more just hoping so.
I really hope so. My last one here, I think we have a first-time MVP winner in both the American League and National League. I think Vlad Jr. wins in the American League, and assuming he's healthy, who knows if he'll even be back by the time the season starts. But I think Ronald Acuna Jr. will finally win an MVP.
Those are good ones. I also have a baseball one. The Seattle Mariners finally end their playoff drought dating back to 2001.
I like that one. I really like that one. I think they do, too.
Yeah.
I think they do. Good list there, Tana, man.
Yep. Lots of NFL talk. We got winners and losers to go over. We got a quarterback list. We got Black Monday. I don't know where to start.
3 winners, 3 losers. I have that pulled up.
Easy enough. One of my winners, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Me too.
They lucked in to kind of get in the playoffs, but I will say he's an old man, but he was impressive on that game-winning drive. Big Ben
absolutely
rolls on to another week at Arrowhead.
San Francisco 49ers.
They're one of mine as well.
Going into Los Angeles and beating the Rams. It's pretty impressive.
Yes, and Kyle Shanahan's safe, I think.
Absolutely. Him and Lynch
playoffs.
Both are safe.
Yep.
The Vegas Raiders are my last winner.
We got the same 3, even though I hate putting them in the winners column again.
Yeah. The Chargers are one of my losers.
Mine
I'll
too.
just get that out of the way because all they had to do was play for a tie there. They took a timeout with 38 seconds left, hoping they were going to get the ball back. And I think the Raiders were really content with running out the clock and having a tie so they'd both be guaranteed
I think so too.
a playoff berth. And the Raiders decided to run one more run, and they get in field goal range. Like, screw it. We're just going to kick a field goal. If we miss, who cares? Like, we're going to be in the playoffs anyway.
Except one thing I don't think a lot of people have brought up. There's a couple things. I'm an AFC West fan, of course.
Mm-hmm.
These teams don't like each other. So they're probably kind of like, screw them. We don't want them making it, especially after that timeout. The other thing is, I believe, I could be wrong about this, but I believe if they tied, Vegas was going to have to go to Kansas City. You're telling me they want to play against Kansas City, a team who's beat them easily twice? I'd rather go play Cincinnati.
Absolutely.
So
I didn't
a lot
even
of
think
people
about
aren't
that.
talking about that. I'm like, but yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, I think they were going to play it pretty conservatively just in case.
Right.
They didn't want to turn the ball over. They didn't want to get a field goal blocked or anything.
And my God, Vegas, how did you blow that 15-point lead? You should have just had it over with.
Yeah.
I mean, all the Charger fans just need to hope Herbert gets a 4th and long because then he makes magic happen.
He does every single time. He does. I'm sure we have the same loser here, the Indianapolis Colts.
Oh, absolutely. Biggest loser of the year.
I mean, they were double-digit point favorites each of the last 2 weeks, and they lost.
They got smacked yesterday.
That's enough to get a Frank Wright fired.
I don't think they're going to do it.
I don't think so either.
I know a lot of fans wanted to see them make some heads roll.
Carson Wentz was horrendous yesterday.
Yeah,
Just
he
awful.
was just, you can't defend him.
The offensive line was terrible. Running game was terrible because
defense wasn't good even.
Defense was bad. They folded under the pressure against the worst team in the NFL.
Haven't won at Jacksonville since 2014.
It's crazy. It's pretty incredible though. Jacksonville had 3 wins this year. One against Buffalo, which is a playoff team, and their other 2 wins kept teams out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Dolphins win that game. They're in the playoffs right now.
Yep.
Colts win that game. They're in the playoffs right now. It's pretty crazy how that ended up playing out.
I mean, you think the Colts should have been focused. I mean, yeah, they're playing the worst team in the league, but when you're in, you can't take your eyes off the prize. They probably just went there and thought, we're going to get up on these guys early. They're going to quit.
And then I think Trevor Lawrence went 8 for 8 on the first
drive.
He did.
It was the worst way he could have started the
and
game.
I bet they're sitting there like, oh, crap, here we go. It reminds me so much of every single Dolphins end of season loss when they needed to get into the playoffs. It was kind of fun to watch the Colts finally do it.
Geno Smith flashbacks, Josh.
Yeah, seriously. My last loser, Arizona Cardinals. If they would have just beaten a bad Seattle team, they would have won the division because the Rams lost.
We finally differed on one. I had the Rams just because I don't know what to think about them going into the playoffs.
I don't either. I mean, I think they host Arizona, which Arizona went 3-5 at home, and they went 7-2 on the road.
That's a weird one.
Or 7-1 or 6-2 on the
road.
One. So maybe Arizona feels better about going to Los Angeles than they would hosting it. Who knows? So.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and let's talk about the quarterbacks, then the playoffs, then end on Black Monday, because I'm sure we can both get a little fired up about that. So
playoff quarterback rankings.
Yep. 1 through 14. That's how we ranked them. How did you go about ranking yours? I'm curious. Did you rank them by who you think's best, who you wanted to be your starting quarterback if you had to choose late game, or what?
Who I think is playing the best right now.
Okay. I kind of took them both into consideration.
Kind of an overall season 2 of who I would want starting for me is kind of
fair. That's fair.
But my number 1 guy is Aaron Rodgers.
Mine's Tom Brady.
That's interesting.
I was thinking in my head because 1 and 2 was a toss up for me. And I thought, who would I want the ball if I had to have the ball in a big playoff game? Because they both have miraculous seasons.
And Brady's won the big game. Rodgers teams find a way to not win them. Right. So that's fair. My number 2 guy's Pat Mahomes.
Mine's Aaron Rodgers. So, yeah.
I have Tom Brady 3.
I have Pat Mahomes 3. So, and you could shift all 3 of those in any order, and I'm not going to argue.
I have Joe Burrow 4.
I have Joey Burrow 4.
Nice. I have Josh Allen 5.
I have Dak Prescott 5.
I have Dak 6.
I have Josh Allen 6.
Let's flip-flop those. I have Matt Stafford 7.
I have Matthew Stafford 7.
I have Kyler Murray 8.
I have Kyler Murray 8.
And my number 9 was either going to be Herbert or Derek Carr, so it's going to be Derek Carr.
I have Carr 9.
I have Ben Roethlisberger 10.
I have Big Ben 10.
I have Tannehill 11.
I have Mac Jones 11.
I have Mac 12.
I have Tannehill 12.
I have Jimmy G 13.
I have Jalen Hurts 13.
I have Jalen Hurts 14.
And I have Jimmy G 14. So we were pretty darn close.
Yeah, pretty close.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun though, and it's fun that we're going to have a Monday night playoff game for the first time ever, I think.
Yeah. Cardinals Rams Monday night. Start off Saturday with the Raiders and the Bengals. Started off, and then the Saturday night game. Is that the Bills and the Pats?
I'm not sure. I'm gonna look it up right now.
Yeah, because we gotta make picks anyways. So
yeah.
Which I forgot to mention. J-Man won the belt again. 12-6 on the season.
12-6 on the season. 2 straight years. The champ is here. You come out the king. You best not miss.
I'm embarrassed.
Maybe next year's your year.
Oh boy.
Starting with the Vegas Raiders at the Cincinnati Bengals.
I think the Bengals get this one done.
I do too.
Did you know, Josh, nobody's ever sent a text message about the Bengals winning a game, and nobody's ever made a Facebook post about the Raiders or the Bengals winning a playoff game.
Bengals are 6-point favorites. If I'm giving an AFC Coach of the Year award to anyone, it's going to be Rich Bisaccia.
I don't know how the Raiders can get rid of him.
I don't either. That season had a chance to implode in on itself. Their coach gets fired or steps away. They have their best wide receiver, not named Darren Waller, kill a person. He's in jail. Had a couple more arrests, and they're sitting here in the playoffs. It's an incredibly impossible job that Bisaccia did.
Yeah, and I'm giving him praise, and I hate giving the Raiders praise about anything. and yeah, if Davis is dumb enough to let him go, and I know he probably wants to try to swing it for the fence for Harbaugh and make a splash like he did with the Gruden hire, but just stick with what's working now.
He was dumb enough to hire Gruden. You don't think he's dumb enough to fire?
Oh, I definitely think he's dumb enough. It's the Davises.
Yeah,
they're up there with the Ricketts, but they spend their money a little more wisely. But maybe they don't. I don't know.
They don't spend it more wisely, but at least they spend it.
Yeah, that's
the Raiders.
That's a good point.
New England at Buffalo.
Maybe I'm just hoping on this one. I think Buffalo gets it done.
Buffalo's 4-point favorites. I think they get it done. I think Dolphins exposed New England a little bit yesterday. They one of the worst 31st rushing attack in the NFL, and the Dolphins ran for 195 yards.
Brian Flores just knows how to beat New England.
He does. 4-2 against Bill Belichick. Best record anyone's ever had. And they can him. Philadelphia at Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay, I think it rolls.
Yeah, this is a huge playoff spread. Not nearly
10?
8.5. Not nearly as big as the Steelers-Chiefs game, though.
Yeah.
Give me Tampa Bay. 49ers at Dallas.
I think Dallas wins this one, but I think this might be the best game of the weekend.
49ers are scary, man.
Yeah.
As long as Jimmy G doesn't turn the ball over, they play defense, they run it pretty well. Deebo Samuel was fantastic this year for him out of the backfield.
Kittle's still a mismatch.
Yeah. I mean, Deebo had over 1,400 yards receiving. I think he had close to 500 yards rushing too. Dude's a beast, but give me Dallas in a real close one. I hope not.
Yeah. It's, two teams that everybody hated in the 90s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think most people still kind of hate them. Maybe not San Francisco as much, but Pittsburgh Steelers travel to Kansas City. This is a 12.5-point spread.
Kansas City's going to kill them.
Kill them. Murder them. Why they chose that to be the Sunday nighter? It's got to be a Mahomes
because
factor.
It's Mahomes.
And it's Roethlisberger's probable last game, maybe.
Yeah. That's and the Steelers draw huge ratings because they got a national fan base.
Arizona Cardinals at the LA Rams. This is a good one.
I want to take the Cardinals, but I can't do it. I want to because I think the Rams turn into frauds, but I got to take the Rams. Home field advantage is so big in the playoffs.
But again, Cardinals are 8-1 on the road.
That's a good point.
Give me the Cardinals. I'm switching my pick.
I
don't know why. That's going to be a real fun game to watch, though.
Yeah, it should be.
You just want to stick with that, and then we pick the divisional round next week?
Yeah. Let's just that's good. We got enough to talk about here Black Monday.
Black Monday. Your head coach was fired. My head coach was fired. A few other head coaches were fired.
I saw mine moving, though. I don't know if you saw yours. Your tweet yesterday thought it might happen.
Well, it'd been kind of mentioned, said, don't be surprised if one of those sort of things. I had a hard time believing it until it actually happened. I was real upset this morning.
Frank Fleming of Barstool Sports was PO'd. I mean, his 5-minute video, him and Big Cat, was hilarious.
I mean, the fact that they started 1-7 and then won 8 of their last 9 to win it shows that he didn't lose the locker room.
He was a game away from being coach of the year, probably.
Yeah. And there were some behind the scenes things. Adam Beasley, former Dolphins beat writer, now NFL writer for very reputable Pro Football Network, wrote a story about today, and he said Flores was incredibly difficult to work with. His relationship with GM Chris Greer and his staff and his players went from fraught to non-existent at times.
Yeah.
Flores hired 4 offensive coordinators, 4 offensive line coaches in 3 years. If he were allowed to return for year 4, he would have had a very difficult time assembling a quality staff.
Yeah.
Flores rode his players over making weight, speaking to reporters, embarrassing them in front of teammates, even keeping them home for trivial reasons on road games. So there was obviously some disconnect there. Mm-hmm. Now, my question is, how does Chris Greer survive? Chris Greer is the one that spent 12 draft picks on offensive linemen over the past like 5 years, it feels like. And they have the worst offensive line in football. He's completely neglected the running back room to the point where their two best running backs at the end of the year were practice squad pickups in November, Duke Johnson and Philip Lindsay. His defenses hadn't always been good. His draft class in 2020 was awful. I mean, it looks awful. He chose the wrong quarterback. Their second first-round pick, Austin Jackson, was so bad at left tackle they moved him to left guard where he's merely mediocre. They took Noah Igbinoghene, or whatever his name is, 28th overall in the first round in 2020. He's barely been active because he's been so bad. How does that guy survive? He's been there 18 years, only 3 or 4 as GM, but 18 years, and they've made the playoffs twice.
Could have had Jonathan Taylor, Josh.
Yeah, that's the kind of crap that makes no sense as to why they'd fire Flores. I thought give him one more year, maybe the turnaround was real. Now, the slow starts to begin the year are a real concern, and that's an indictment on Brian Flores, but I thought he deserved at least one more year.
Now, I still really want Denver to bring him in for an interview.
He should.
I came out with my top 3 lists today on Twitter, which I'll share here momentarily, and he's number 2 on my list.
Yeah.
But the one thing that does scare me after hearing that report, which you just read off to us, and I kind of had heard this too, is it just reminds me a lot of what Bill O'Brien got in trouble for in Houston.
Yep.
I'm like, is this a New England thing?
And another thing was Flores didn't like Tua from the start.
Yeah,
right. And it sounds like Flores was the guy like pounding his fist on the table for Deshaun Watson. It wasn't Greer or Ross, like had been mentioned.
Yeah.
So it was evident yesterday even. Tua had 2 passing yards entering their final drive in the fourth quarter in the second half.
Now, do you think Flores might have wanted Watson and the franchise didn't, and that could have been something, or do you think
that's the rumor is he's the one that wanted Watson?
Yeah.
Now I think Ross wanted Watson as well and Greer, but it sounds like Flores was really the guy. But I mean, I thought Flores, excellent head coach. We obviously don't know what's really going on behind the scenes.
No.
And this could be just the Dolphins came out with this as a way to save face and make it look like they had to do something. You have your top 3 list. My top 1 really is Doug Peterson. I think
he's number 3 on my list.
I'm so sick of going the coordinator route. They've done it for the past 4 or 5 hires and it hasn't worked out. Go with a guy. He's won a Super Bowl. He obviously knows how to develop quarterbacks. Carson Wentz's injury probably is the thing that derailed his career in Philly. Give him a chance to work with Tua. He's really good in the run pass option sort of stuff. I really like him as a potential candidate.
My Flores is my number 2. Peterson's my number 3. Dan Quinn's been my number 1. I thought he was a pretty solid head coach at Atlanta, but his time just ran out. I just want a head coach who's experienced, because that's usually when Denver's good. They've had experienced head coaches: Shanahan, Fox, and Kubiak.
Yep.
Joseph, Fangio, they're defensive guys. I don't care if you get a defensive guy, just get an experienced one. Don't get a guy who's a first-time head coach that hasn't proven to work. But they've put permission to request to interview Gerard Mayo, Kellen Moore, Dan Quinn, Eric Bieniemy,
Nathaniel Hackett too.
Hackett, Gannon, who's the defensive coordinator in Philadelphia. I'm fine with it. Cast a wide net. The more to interview, the better. Because in the searches in the past few years, they've interviewed like 5. So cast a wide net. George Payton's first time ever doing this. So we'll see. I might have a new list come next week. But here's what I wanted to cover real quick before we get to the Birdie Bogey. So Flores, in his 3 years in Miami, was 24-25. 3 years before that, the Dolphins had an overall record of 23-25. Matt Nagy, the Bears, went 34-31 in a 4-year stretch with 2 playoff appearances. The 4 years prior to that, the Bears were 19-45. Why is there so much scrutiny for the Dolphins firing Flores, but not so much for the Bears firing Nagy with those results right there?
I mean, it has to have something to do with how bad they've been. I mean, they made the playoffs last year somehow.
Twice,
How bad they were this year, and then how bad they were, and how he handled the double doink things.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And seeing how terrible Justin Fields was and how terrible his play calling was. But he had more success than Flores. He's had more success than a lot of these guys. And Bears fans have wanted him out for years, it seems like.
Maybe it's a brand thing too. The Bears think they're a national brand still. Maybe they are. The nation, ESPN thinks they are because they get 5 primetime games a year.
Yeah, I'm so done with that.
Yeah. And Mike Zimmer also got canned today.
And Chris Spielman, their GM.
And keep an eye on the Texans coach. Keep an eye on Pete Carroll. Maybe Joe Judge, even though it sounds like he's going to be safe.
He should have been the first guy fired.
Oh, Giant fans. So,
all right. Yeah. Give me Birdie Bogey.
Birdie Bogey. What NFL stadium, past or present, has been host to the most NFL playoff games?
I mean, I got to choose Lambeau Field.
You were taking a bogey, my friend.
Shoot.
Candlestick Park.
Candlestick, really? San Francisco, huh?
Yep.
I guess Levi Stadium's only been around a couple of years now.
Yeah, Candlestick closed in like 2013 or 2014. Yeah.
Dang, good question. Good question.
Thank you.
We're tied. Are we going to get any right this year?
Maybe a couple. Wrap us up there, J-Man, for episode 269.
Thanks for watching the Tan and J-Man Show live on the ISC Sports Network. We'll be back at it next Monday with another episode. Have a fantastic week, everybody.